Hey, how's it going? My name is Serena and welcome to my studio. Alcohol inks can be messy and they stain. How do you stop them from staining your surfaces? What's the best way to set up your workspace before working with alcohol ink? I'll be answering these questions and more in today's edition of Alcohol Inks A to Z. Before we get started, please subscribe to my channel using the subscribe button to get weekly videos all about alcohol inks, including exclusive information on techniques, hints, tips, and tricks. Alcohol inks are very messy, and because you're splashing and moving the inks around, they can easily get all over surfaces you didn't intend to have them on. I can tell you from experience that I have damaged a lot of surfaces in my home because I wasn't very careful. I have stains on my laminate floor, on my counter, and even on my wall because I wasn't careful. So today, you get to learn from my mistakes. The first thing I suggest you do is, if you're worried about possibly staining your floor, consider laying down some sort of protective cover on the floor where you're going to be working. You can use a garbage bag, but make sure it's big enough to at least cover your surface. Here's a picture of my setup, and you can see that I also use a tarp, just like the one I use for camping. I once did a huge painting using lots of ink, and I had garbage bags underneath my table, but no other protection. Hours later, when I went to check on the piece, I realized that some of the alcohol inks had gotten under the garbage bags and stained my floor. So now I use a tarp and garbage bags on my floor, although some people might consider that overkill. Because I use an airbrush for a lot of my work, I usually use a large enough bag or several to cover the area around my table so I don't have to worry about splashes. I often work big, and my pieces are sometimes as big as my table, so I lay down a huge tarp and lots of garbage bags. The reason that I put garbage bags on top of the tarp, and it might be kind of hard to see, is that all that residual ink dries and crumbles, and I reuse my tarp for all my projects as my first and biggest line of defense against staining my floor. I don't want all of this drying on my tarp and falling off onto the floor when I fold it up. So now when I'm done, I just pull the edges of the garbage bags inward, wrap it up and dispose of it, and since there's no residual ink on the tarp that'll crumble on my floor, I can just fold up the tarp and put it away. Now that we've talked about protecting our floor, let's talk about protecting our table or work area. I usually start by laying a garbage bag or several on my table. If you use several, make sure they overlap. Then I put something absorbent on my surface. Paper towel works well, but you can also use puppy pads, which is something I started doing when I started working with acrylic ink and watercolor years ago, after one of my friends who was potty training her puppy came over one day and saw the huge mess that I'd made all over my table. Then she suggested puppy pads. You might laugh at me for this next part, but I also protect my walls before working, because another time when I was using an airbrush, I splattered paint onto our beautiful white walls. So now I tape a garbage bag to the wall closest to where I'm working. Yes, I actually have garbage bags taped to my wall when I'm working. Now let's talk about where I put everything. Everyone has a different setup, and you'll find your groove as you work more with the inks, but these are the things I've found help me when working with this medium. I try to arrange my workspace so the surface I'm working on is front and center right near me so that I can access it quickly and make the adjustments I need to make. Next, I try to place my inks near me in such a way where I don't have to reach across anything to get to them. They're expensive, and I don't want to accidentally knock them over and spill my liquid gold on the desk or floor. Some people remove the caps of their inks as they use each one. I personally uncap all my inks that I'm going to use before I use them because alcohol inks dry very quickly, and I'm often using lots of different colors at a time and blending them quickly into my pieces. Also, I'm pretty messy and my hands get covered quickly, so I don't want to get alcohol inks all over my caps. However, if you do uncap them, you need to be extra careful not to knock them over. Consider having whatever alcohol or blending solution you're using nearby so you can access it quickly, because you don't want to have to reach across your surface to grab it in case you knock it over onto your painting. If you're not familiar with blending solutions, don't worry, because we're going to be talking all about them in another video. Finally, I like to keep my tools close to me on the other side of the inks, so I don't have to worry about knocking over the inks when reaching for my tools. And when I'm not comfortable handling that tool with my non-dominant hand, I just pass the tool over to my dominant hand when I work. There are some other considerations before you start working. You'll also want to consider protecting yourself, which I spoke about in depth in last week's video, so make sure to check it out. So there you go. Today we spoke all about protecting our workspace, including protecting our floors, walls, tables, and desks with a durable material such as garbage bags and/or tarps, working on an absorbent material such as paper towel or puppy pads, and setting up your space so everything is easily reached. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. Please give it a thumbs up and feel free to ask any alcohol ink related questions in the comments. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to be the first to learn when I release new videos all about alcohol ink techniques. Other videos will include brands of alcohol inks, surfaces you can use alcohol inks on, blending solutions, and much, much more. So hit subscribe and I'll see you soon. Cheers!